Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm trying something a bit different, so if you have watched my February wrap-ups, you may remember that I said I'm going to try and do something more along the lines of recent reads videos, and then my wrap-ups at the end of the month will just be purely about the stats of what I've read and best of work. So today we have the first of my recent reads videos. My intention for these will be that there'll be roughly 5 books. When I have read 5 books I will then plan to make the video, but if there's a delay, as in this case of when I finish the 5th book and when I get the chance to film, then I'll include any books that I finished in between them. So today is actually, I'm going to be talking about 7 books that I've read so far in March. We're about 3 weeks into March, so this is what I've read in the first 3 weeks of March. I don't know how often I'll do these. It will be based on how many books I've read rather than on a period of time. That way I think will be a bit more manageable for me, give me a bit more of an opportunity to talk about books that I've enjoyed and not have them be massively long like my wrap-ups have tended to be. But also the closer I make them to finishing reading the books, the better I'll remember the books. So anyway, that's enough chat, on with the books. So I'm going to go through these in the order that I read them. The first book that I finished in March, first book I'm going to talk about today, is Sickened by Gregory. So this was one of my book death row picks for February. I started this on the 29th of February, finished it on the 1st of March. It was okay. It's a really interesting subject. It's a true story of Gregory, who was a victim of Munchausen's by proxy. So growing up, her mother kept taking her to the doctors. It's unclear whether her mother was actually convinced there was something wrong with her or was just doing it for attention. It is a form of child abuse really, or Julie was often neglected as a child, left to fend for herself, not given very much food because her mother told her that she couldn't eat regular food, and her mother was convinced there was something wrong with her, so was constantly taking her to the doctors to have very invasive tests. So it was a very sad story, and it goes into a bit of the history of the family, their family circumstances. They were fairly isolated, they lived sort of a little bit away from everyone else, so that's how they could like hide it really. So in terms of subject matter, it was really interesting, really fascinating. It's a subject that I do find quite intriguing. I gave it 3 stars though because the writing was not brilliant. She did this thing where the entire narrative is in the past, so it's nothing about her present day until right at the very end. So this was published in 2003. I'm not sure how far after the end of the narrative she was writing this, but anyway, the point being that she jumped between present tense and past tense even though the whole story was her past, which I found really disorientating. I don't like changes in shifts in tense like that, or shifts in perspective. Like, it's fine if the story is part told in the present day and part told in the past, and then you know it makes sense for you to tell the bits in the present tense. But this wasn't like that, and I found that quite jarring. Yeah, some of the other linguistic choices, for example, made it not an enjoyable reading experience. I mean, it's a difficult subject matter anyway, so it wasn't necessarily going to be a book that you would enjoy reading because there's quite troubling things happen to Julie as a child. So there were definitely elements of the narrative that were difficult to read in that sense, but then the actual reading experience wasn't that fun either because I didn't like the style of writing basically. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. I'm going to be unhauling it, but not a bad book if you're interested in. There was a spate around the time this came out of novels about children surviving abusive upbringings, so this very much fits in in that genre, in that field, and if you enjoy that sort of thing you'll probably enjoy this one. I mean, it was alright. The next book I finished was a library book which I've since taken back, so it was another non-fiction. It was called The 4-Pillar Plan: How to Relax, Eat, Move, Sleep Your Way to a Longer, Healthier Life by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. So this was one I picked up because my therapist recommended his podcast, and in his podcast he talks a little bit about the book, and I thought it might be quite helpful, and it has been. There's a couple of aspects of it that I've picked up and carried on. So the idea being that he believes health is all quite interconnected, so if you improve your sleep you'll improve your diet, and if you improve your diet you'll improve your exercise, if you improve your exercise you'll improve your sleep, and all of that. So he believes it's all interlinked. So he has different suggestions for each of these 4 areas: relax, eat, moves and sleep. He suggests 5 different things for each one, and he doesn't recommend you try and do all of them at once because that would be overwhelming. His whole philosophy is how to make being healthy simpler, so you're meant to just pick sort of 1 or 2 to try and action in your life to try and make your life healthier, really. I found a lot of the suggestions really helpful about getting more sunlight in the mornings, cutting down on caffeine and sugar. I'm not doing very well at the sugar one, to be honest, at the moment, but it is my intention to do that. Trying to eat a more variety of vegetables, and he has these sort of, he calls it exercise snacking or something, movement snacking, where he just has some 5-minute exercise routines you can do while like you're waiting for the kettle to boil or while you're cooking dinner or that sort of thing. So I've been trying to build some of those things into my life, and I'm finding it really helpful, making me think about health in a different way, really. And I've been enjoying his podcast as well, which is called Feel Better Live More. Yeah, I would recommend that. I gave it 4 stars and I found it really helpful, and I will continue to listen to his podcast and get more insights into health from him. The next book was also a library book, so this was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time. I heard a lot of good things about it and I really enjoyed it. So it's a story about a fictional rock band from the 70s and their meteoric rise to fame and then the implosion of that, and it's told as a series of interviews. The internal author, I guess, has met up with all the different members of the band and various other people that were involved in their story, and has asked some questions about their experiences and put it in a time frame. I think it was inspired by the story of Fleetwood Mac, who are a really great band that I enjoy listening to, so I was fairly certain I was going to really enjoy this book, and even more so after I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo last year, which was a book that I really did enjoy a lot. So I was fairly confident I was going to love this, and I really did. I gave it 4 stars because it wasn't quite perfect for me, but I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a really interesting way to tell the story. I think I was just really disappointed that the music wasn't real music. Like, I wanted to go away and listen to their albums and like hear the sound and have it all in my head and be able to like listen to it while I was reading it. I heard a rumour that they might be making a film of it. I really hope they do, because then someone will actually have to write the music for these songs and we'll get a soundtrack, and then I can buy the book and reread it listening to the music, and that would just be lovely. We can but hope, we can but hope. So yeah, really do highly recommend that one as well. Really solid, really good writing from Taylor Jenkins Reid again there, so I will be keeping an eye out for more of her books because I've enjoyed the ones I've read so far. Next was another library book, and actually I read this one as an ebook. Been trying out the library's ebook service a little bit more, particularly for books that I can't get easily in another format, to try and avoid having to buy them. So the next book I read was An Unkindness of Ghost by Reid Solomon. So if you've been watching my wrap-ups, you'll know that I'm trying to read more marginalised genders, so particularly transgendered and non-binary authors. So Reid Solomon is a non-binary author, and this was a really excellent book. I really enjoyed this. It's a science fiction, sort of quite dystopian situation. It's set on a spaceship that a number of generations ago left the Earth because the Earth had become uninhabitable. In this book there is a very strict hierarchy still based on what deck people live on. So the earlier in the alphabet your deck comes, the more wealthy and powerful you are. And then the lower down the alphabet, the further down the alphabet you go, the lower ranked you are and the less important. And the people at the top are making decisions that really affect the lives of people at the bottom. It's often defined by gender and race as well, so it's a real story of colonialism and how that might translate into this setting of the spaceship. The main character is Asta, who is neurodiverse, and her and another main character, Theo, are both gender fluid in some respects. So they both Asta uses female pronouns and Theo uses male pronouns, but you can tell that neither of them are quite comfortable with that as being their gender, as those labels. There's a lot of rep in this book for different queer identities and neurodivergence and disabilities and mental health and so much stuff. I think it ticked every box on my character diversity rep spreadsheet page columns. It was brilliant and so inventive and really clever. Like, there's so much scientific information went into the writing of this book that I was blown away by it, really. I only gave it 4 stars and I can't remember quite why. It was just, I have to like really be certain that I want to give a book 5 stars to give it 5 stars, if that makes sense. If I finish a book and think, yes, that was 5 stars, then it gets 5 stars. If I'm like, I don't know, that's when it will get 4 stars, but it'll probably be like a 4.5 star if we could have half stars on Goodreads, so yeah, highly recommend it. I am going to be trying to find more of River Solomon's books. I know they have another one out, which again I've heard really good things about, but my library doesn't have it yet, and I am trying not to buy books. I say that, I have been buying books, but yeah, that's going on my list of books to get a hold of. Really highly recommend that one. And then I finished another non-fiction book. This is Sustaining Leadership by Swann. So this was my theology book club pick for March, but I didn't actually make it to the discussion, which was meant to be this week. I don't know if it actually happened or not, but it was amidst all the tightening of social distancing suggestions, requirements, whatever, however you wanted to define it. My friend and I were going to go, and then we kind of decided that it was probably more sensible not to go because it was with people that we hadn't seen yet. So I really enjoyed this one. This is about self-care and how self-care is not selfish, how you've got to look after yourself to be able to function and look after other people. It's particularly about a church context. So Swann was fairly high in church leadership and had a massive life-affecting health condition. He had ME, or also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. So he developed that and basically had to give up his work, his career, and let his body try and recover, and it's still something he is struggling with. Like, he's not ever going to be back to full health. So it was a really powerful to read an account of the importance of self-care and what not taking care of yourself can mean from someone that's lived it and is continuing to live it. So I found it really encouraging, particularly with what I've been through in the last couple of months. This was really timely for me to read this and to be encouraged that actually taking action to protect my health, particularly my mental health, is vital if I want any sort of leadership positions in the future. If you're in leadership, particularly in church leadership, or thinking about being in church leadership, or just want to take better care of yourself, then this is a very good book. Right, so that was the 5, and then I finished that one on Monday and haven't had a chance to film until now. We're now on Sunday. So I managed to finish 2 books. I finished one yesterday and one today, so I'm going to talk a little bit about them as well. So this week has been Voltathon. It actually finishes today, and I managed to fit both of these books in. I actually started the first one technically before Voltathon started, but I'm counting it anyway because I hadn't read very much of it before Voltathon started. The first one is The Last Wish by, I knew I was going to say this badly, Andrzej Sapkowski. Sorry. I'm going to put a picture up actually as well because I've got this from the library and there's an issue with the book, so they stuck this sticker on it to remind me to take it back to the desk and not self-scan it at the library when I take it back. So this is, did I say it's The Last Wish, which is the first book in the Witcher series. So I've heard a lot of talk about the TV series on Netflix of The Witcher and wanted to watch it, but I always want to try and read the book first, and I'm really glad I did. I really enjoyed this. This is a collection of short stories, all featuring the same main character, Geralt, who is the Witcher, but they are linked as well. In between each story there's a little connected other story and they link into the short story, so it's all linked. So it didn't feel like reading a collection of short stories, it did feel like an episodic novel, I guess. And I really enjoyed it. Definitely want to carry on with the series. Really pleased because the author is Polish, I believe he's Polish. And I haven't read any Polish books for Read Around the World yet, so this counts for Read Around the World, yay! And for Voltathon, I think I'm only using it for one. It reimagines mythology. It says for the prompt in a real world way, but I mean the group book is Strange the Dreamer, which isn't exactly real world either. This had a lot of mythological influences in it, like a lot of the creatures that he's fighting are mythical beasts, and there's a lot of influence of fairy tales. There were references to fairy tales, and some of the short stories could be argued to be twisted versions of fairy tales, which was quite fun, really. So yeah, really enjoyed this, and I will be carrying on with this series as soon as the libraries reopen and I can get the next one. I'm going to request it. So this wasn't on my TBR because I only picked it up after I filmed my TBR because I didn't know how long it was going to take to come in at the library for me because there are so many reserves on it. And so I was like, oh, I'll prioritise reading that so that I can take it back for the next person person to have it in case I can't renew it, and now the libraries are shut and I've got it for 3 more months anyway. But never mind, I finished it and I will be requesting the next one, and we'll be carrying on with that series. And then finally I finished this morning. This was our Ninja Book Club pick for March. This is The Starlight Watchmaker by Lauren James. I'm a big fan of Lauren James. This is a middle grade novel published by an independent publisher called Barrington Stoke, and they publish books that are meant to be easier for younger readers but also for people with dyslexia to read. So the pages are creamy coloured and the font is easier to read font. This was a really beautiful little story. It's about an android called Hugo who has survived on a planet which basically all that's on this planet is an elite university for the children of wealthy diplomats from planets around the universe, and they come to this academy to hone their skills. And Hugo was abandoned by his previous owner when that owner graduated from the university. He upgraded, got a new android and left Hugo behind. So Hugo has made a living for himself as a watchmaker, repairing clockwork items that the students at the university are using. And one day Dorian, a student, comes to him to ask him to fix his watch, but it turns out that a part has been stolen from the watch. So Dorian and Hugo start to investigate what has happened, who has stolen this part. It was just a really lovely story and I really highly recommend it. I recommend everything Lauren James writes because she is just a brilliant sci-fi author. Most of her books are YA, this one is younger, middle grade, but just a really lovely little story. This met a lot of prompts for Voltathon as well. So search for something lost because they're looking for the missing part of this watch. An underdog protagonist, so androids in the society are looked down on by basically everyone else. Empty buildings discusses imperialism or colonialism, so the attitude of the biological peoples towards androids, I felt, did pick up on some of those themes of colonialism. There's particularly a scene where they meet other androids that have been left behind when their owners have moved on, and they're talking about what has happened to these androids and how they've got to that position, and it really did bring out some of those themes of how empires treat the peoples that they overcome, although in this sense it's not quite the same because the biological people haven't invaded the androids' home in that sense, but they have used them and then abused them and left them. So I thought it picked up on the theme. And then Mystery at its heart again is to do with what has happened to Dorian's watch and why that's happened. There are a few little twists and turns in there as well in a very short book, which is quite nice. So I'm only actually missing one prompt for Voltathon at the moment. I'm on the last day of Voltathon now, and which is a book where books influence the plot. So I have got a book downstairs I'm going to try and read this afternoon if I get time, and try and hit that, and then I've hit all the prompts without actually reading the group book this time because I've already read Strange the Dreamer. That would be quite good if I can manage to do that. But back to this book for now. As you can see, beautiful cover, really do recommend it, particularly if you're looking for middle grade books. This is a really lovely one and introduces some of those difficult themes in a really gentle way, and I think would spark some really good conversations for younger readers. So that is the first 7 books I've read in March, all 3 or 4 stars, so I haven't actually read a 5-star book yet in March. And Starlight Watchmaker came close, as did The Witcher and An Unkindness of Ghosts and Daisy Jones and the Six, so they were all what I would class as 4.5 stars, if not quite 5 stars. So we have about 10 days left of March at this point, and I have a few more books that I'm partway through that I want to try and finish, so hopefully one of them will be a 5-star read. But yeah, so that's it. Let me know some of what you're reading at the moment. What books have you finished recently and how good have they been? Have you read any of these books and what did you think of them if you have? I know a couple of them are quite popular on BookTube at the moment, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. So please have a chat to me down in the comments about some of what you're reading. Please like this video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you haven't already. My upload schedule has been all over the place at the moment, but I'm trying to get back to something a bit more regular. I'm going to be working from home from this week, so hopefully that will give me a bit more time and flexibility to get back to a regular upload schedule. You can also find me on my social media, particularly if you want up-to-date info about what books I'm reading, then go to my Goodreads. You can also catch me on Twitter where I ramble about various things. All that information is listed in the description box below for you, but that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!